All right. So
You know what I'm saying? It's like there's just certain things that just don't you don't. It might be the same BPM, but when you're trying to tell a story, you want like-minded. You want a smooth transition from point A to point Z, and so you want to play like-minded artists that have a similar sound, and then you kind of start slowly bridging it into maybe something more harder or something softer, and you tell a story. And you take the person on a journey where it sounds great. But when you start doing that, like throwing stuff in here and there, and it has no type of flow to it, that's the difference between what we do and what they do.
Do you find that there's a lot of DJs today that don't know how to create that story?
Sure, of course. I mean, a lot of that though has to do with not having the right teachers. You know what I'm
And the
saying?
right music.
this is going to be in 3 phases, right? The first phase is going to be me introducing a commentary that I did for a subscriber. I have a subscriber who I've been working with him for about 3 years now. Just as friends, different than my clients, but he's at that point where he is able to remarkably and has an uncanny ability to pair music, right? Texture wise. But when it comes to the transition though, he's to that point where he's relying on the end of the track and he's not chasing the track. So I gave him a track and I was like, hey, here's a test, right? I'm gonna give you one of the biggest tracks that I am playing out right now, and I want you to chase it. Not just mix it, but I want you to chase it. Chasing means, like I said before, you could not imagine that song without the other song because it pairs so well and it goes so well. It carries a groove. And I was like, here you go. And what he did, which is what most often DJs do, is they rely on the end portion to mix another song. They rely on the tempo of the end of the song in order to mix it. And that's why when you hear mixes, they'll go, and I'm realizing it also as well, that you'll hear mixes and all of a sudden it'll go to a different vibe. And I'm like, whoa, what happened? Like, this was a vibe, because instead of utilizing the core of the track, they rely on the outro, because the outro has elements that are being removed, right? So then when you do that, and now you mix in another track, you're going to rely on that sort of the like the lower tempo, the removed element, as opposed to keeping that groove. And so the 3 phases are going to be me playing for you a recording that I did when I played it back, and I did some commentary, and I sent it back to him, and I corrected him. And then another phase, second phase, is going to be me actually mixing those 2 tracks that he sent me, but showing you exactly how they're supposed to transition, how they're supposed to chase. And then I have another track that I mix into that that song, which shows you how to actually chase it, right, and keep the groove. What he did was that he went to a different vibe. So I'm going to show you how to properly go into a different vibe, because when you go into a different vibe, you can use that because there's standards. Let me just explain to you. When it comes to mixing, there are standards, right? The standard is 2 songs that have the same vibe. And then from there, I mean, a lot of DJs, they do this whole linear thing where they'll play like one vibe for like an hour. I'm not into that. That's not really club DJing. That's just like you just mixing music because, you're being lazy or you have no creativity. But the standard is that if you're going to deviate and go different sounds or vibes, you have to have minimum 2, right? And then you can drop it a little bit depending on what the actual genre is. So if you're playing funky, right, and it's a slower funky style, not too pumpy, then you have some wiggle room where you can go up and down, but you want to have at least 2 and then bring it down 2, and then minimum, you can go 3, you can go 4, you can go 5, right? Obviously the more you go, the more overkill, but you want to have minimum 2. It's like a step, right? Here you go, up, or and then down, right? But that's the minimum. So I'm going to show you how I created the transition to actually give it a step down for a different vibe. And then I'm also going to show you how to keep that momentum and work with the core of the track. And then we're going to come back, and then I'm going to play mixes for you and do commentary live on my mixes and show you how you go from different styles of house and be able to seat them, right? And make them chase, so that each song that comes right after the other, you could not imagine those songs separated because they just match so well, right? All right, let's do this. All right, so again, it's me playing it, and I'm going to record my vocals. I recorded my vocals, and I was playing it in the car because I was like, man, I need to correct it right on the spot. And then I sent it to him right away. All right, so we're all right. So now I hear you coming in. You could have dipped the bass from the oncoming track a little bit, because it came in, it wasn't as smooth as I wanted it. You could have done a better job, and sort of like, that's why I use the EQs to ensure that there's flawless entry, right? Right here, you should be riding it, dude. You should be riding it. You should be riding it. Riding means just like loop it. Right there, riding it. Riding both of them, looping both of them, letting the crowd get used to it. Right here, boom. Riding both of it, riding both, ride. You see? He just dropped it. Now you lost it. You see what I'm saying to you? You lost it. You lost it. Now, again, that's the difference between, I wouldn't even say a pro, because I'm not into that whole pro stuff. But that's, I had to come up with a name with it, you know, that separates like pro DJs and the actual, like, the art. And so it's the artist. There you go. And a DJ artist. Like, that's like the difference between, like, a pro DJ will do that. It doesn't matter. Like, a pro DJ has nothing to do with the art, right? In my opinion. Like, I'm not a pro. So that's another thing that I need to explain, right? You have pro DJs, you have performer DJs, right? And you have artists DJs. I'm an artist DJ. I'm not a performer. I don't do the James Hype. I don't do the 3, 4, 5 decks, right? And when you do that, like I said before in clip 1.
And before that, for me, like coming from drum and bass, you know, coming from like the golden era of hip hop, for me, it was always about playing new music and just showing people something new, something different. Even with the turntable shit, I would always just save that shit to the end. So for me, it was never technical. Mm-hmm. For me, it was always vibes. Like, we would always save the technical shit for the end because we knew we never could come back from that. If you were to do technical shit, then that's all that people want to see.
You see, people get used to that, right? So if you're a James Hype, people will get used to you playing like that. So then you become a performer. You become labeled as a performer DJ. I am what you call an artist, which means that I can knock out any freaking genre, right? And any room, and I'll have different genres, right? Because I have so many different genres, and then I will make the night, and I'm like open house. Well, I go up and down, but again, I'm 2, 3, 4, 5 styles, and then I move it to another. But I'm not gonna go from like a tech to like, new disco. You see what I'm saying to you? Obviously, you have to make sure that you are aligning your songs.
Actually, I really want that in Vegas.
Yeah.
I want like a venue,
Open to
a
close.
small venue where I could just do open to close.
Can you imagine?
I go out of town. I do headlining gigs. It's 2 hours. It never seems fulfilling to me.
It's not.
Because there's so many ways. There's so many genres. There's
It's a
so
lot
many
to you.
places. Yeah. As
lot.
you know, after what 20 plus years of DJing in this industry, it's like I have like so many songs I want to play, and then I think sometimes DJs are afraid to have their own voice, so they continue to emulate what somebody else is doing.
Sure.
So like if this DJ's successful, I'll do exactly what he does. That works.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it just kind of like spirals, and you start seeing the same DJs. They're all playing the same way, and they're doing the same. Like when I go out nowadays in Vegas.
I'm an asshole.
What do you mean you're an asshole?
No, I'm an asshole. I go out. I'm like, this sucks.
But you see what he did there? What he did was that instead of now keeping the groove and working with the end, he relied on the end portion to introduce this. Again, like I said, the songs work well, right? They sound good together, right? But he just didn't transition it well, right? So he took it down, the vibe, he took it down. I wanted him to keep it up, but fine, he went down. So if you go down with it, that means that there's certain ways that you need to extend it and create that dynamic by where people get used to it, and then from there, you can so during a track, like I said before, you can either extend it at the end and let people get used to the track, through the bass, the breakdown of the oncoming track, or you can do a breakdown mix and then you loop it, you extend it, and let people get used to it. But there has to be a transition period where people get accustomed to the sound. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to play for you what I did, right, this morning with using both of those tracks, and then I'm going to use that same track with my track that I chose, and I'll show you how I'll go from what he did, right, and bring it down, but how I extend it, and also how I kept the vibe going. All right, let's go. Remember, the next track that comes, you gotta chase it, right? It has to seat so well that it's like I could not imagine these two tracks separate, right? It's like they can't go anywhere without each other. And then you do that for the next mix, so you can take that same song, mix it with something else, and it still sounds like, oh man, like they just go well together. Now I'm bringing it in, right? I'm not committing. Now another subscriber was like, hey, I've never seen you mix without killing the bass. You always kill the bass. I explained to him that it depends on the music, right? Because a lot of the songs that I play have a lot of transitions within the music, right? So it allows for me to kill the bass. But when I'm playing more like tech, that straight line rolling bass that's got a loopy sound, then it allows me to just slightly adjust the EQs. It's easier with the rotaries because I can have more autonomy. But watch how I do that with this. It's a little tricky with the EQs, right? Because you have to make sure that everything is paired properly, and you don't want to adjust the BPM or the knob, because you'll mess up the kick. So you see how it's coming in. I'm letting it go. I'm not letting the new song commit yet. Slight adjustment there. Right. You're listening because you're paying attention, you caught that, but a lot of people won't. And it's got to be subtle enough that it makes a difference, because again, like, you can't get away from it. It's gonna happen. Now watch this trick that I'm doing right now. See, when you're in that big room, you create that effect.
I won't forget all the promises you made. I won't forget all the promises you made.
And then you bring it back down ever so slightly.
I won't forget all the promises you made.
All right. So here's the next mix. It's the same track, but I'm going to be using a track that I chose. Again, moving it up for instructional purposes. Now watch how, again, there is nothing wrong with what he did, right? But if you're going to go down and create a different vibe, you have to extend it and not let the other one commit. What he did was that he let it commit, so then it dropped, and it was like, okay, now we're finally there. I did not allow that. Oh, we're finally there. I did not bring up the bass. I just let everything roll, and then the vibe came into its own. Here, watch what I do. I'm gonna use my signature style of breakdown mixing or intro mixing with vocals and elements, and then it keeps the track going because I'm working with the core. I'm working with this. I'm not working with the outro. Watch. This is the artist, right? Compared to a performer. You can choose. You can be both, right? My thing is, if you are a performer, more times than not, that's what people expect. When you're an artist, you can always be an artist, rock any room, and then you can do that performance stuff. But people are not always gonna expect that. They're gonna expect you to be an artist. imagine those tracks without it. Listen. Now I'm working with vocals, I'm working with instrumentation, I'm working with the art. It's all about creativity, dude. I'm telling you right now, very few DJs are doing this, man. And I'm telling you, people don't, you have to come to the understanding that and appreciate and acknowledge that, yo, like this is art. Like it takes practice, it takes creativity, it takes determination, that it's not something that that it's just gonna come naturally. And that's what I want, man. Like I want it to be like, yo, like it's not so easy, right? Like you can't, like, even if you take a mix and you're like, man, like I'm going to pre-plan my entire mix, I guarantee you that 10 times out of 10, my pre-planned mix is going to be 10 times better than the next DJ, because I understand what it means to pair music. Give me all the time in the world and I'm going to pre-plan it. And the more that you pre-plan, right, when you're doing your mixes and so forth, is going to allow you that when you're live, okay, you will understand and know what sounds with what.
Like when I practice or when I'm working on a set, like before a gig, it's really about me going through music and picking what songs to play that people haven't heard that's gonna work in a room. And it's really not technically based at all. It's almost like I'm about to go out and freestyle and just like throw on a bunch of tracks, but the way I'm gonna put it out there and organize the selection, that's really what kind of like motivates me. That's what like drives me when I'm DJing in the club.
As it should in the
Right.
club, yeah, for sure.
Right? So when I say pre-plan, like not pre-plan your whole entire set, but pre-plan your transition. You go through what sounds good. That's what practice is. Oh, this sounds good with this. This sounds good with that. Okay, this will. Okay, this one. As you're listening, you're driving. Oh, this would go well with that. Like you're doing these things and subconsciously, and over time you do it over. You get better at it, and then when you get to the actual DJ set live, it's not always going to be perfect, but you have more of a chance of you being able to pair and chase music well and extremely well, more so than if you just rely on, oh, I'm just going to just put music together here and there. Part of you playing out well is the preparation. You need to prepare your music, okay, and pre-plan it, not pre-plan it, but prepare it, okay, and know what sounds with what goes well with what. And then as you're playing live, you don't have the opportunity to pre-plan sometimes, but you can go on the fly, and it makes it easier because you've already listened to, you know exactly what is supposed to sound with these tracks. So now phase 3, I'm going to cut into a previous recording that I did explaining some of the issues that we're having, and then we're going to come in and lay out the mix for you. All right, See you on the flip side. All right, so we're back at it again. Now this is phase 3, and I'm gonna go over a few of my transitions. Right, I have 2 mixes that I'll link on the screen somewhere that you can go check it out. Obviously, some of you may have seen it already, but we're just gonna go through and like explain to you the whole chasing, right? So let me before we get into this, I want to preface, right, that I'm actually moving again, right? I'm excited about it. Don't really want to speak about it yet, knock on wood, right? I was supposed to go somewhere, but unfortunately that assignment, that opportunity, that offer no longer exists, right? So I was offered somewhere else, so I decided to take that, and I think some of you will be excited about that, right? But nonetheless, I've been learning languages, right? I've been learning, practicing my French, and I've been researching on the various ways of how to learn and the intricacies and the different ways that people, listen and receive the language in order to be able to formulate that in their minds. And there's this concept called the noticing theory.
First of all, when we begin with a new language, we don't notice much. It's all noise to us. Like if you're trying to notice the pronunciation, you can't really hear it that well. And so everything is kind of like a blank slate. But certain things start to fall into place naturally. And so that we start to notice certain things. We notice that, how certain things are pronounced. And some people may notice better than others. But as we notice more, then other things that had previously been hidden come forward and we start to notice them.
And essentially what it is that you really don't know what you don't know. So it's not until you start to acquire a lot of information.
First of all, the more we listen and read, the more we naturally, almost subconsciously notice things, because this is sort of Krashen's input hypothesis. We're just gradually acquiring the language. Our brain is starting to recognize certain patterns in the language, so that even without deliberately trying to notice anything, we start to notice things, all right? But I have had the experience, as I listened to a mini story for the 30th time, I noticed something that I hadn't noticed before. So we are continuing to notice just through this process of listening and reading.
For example, when I see an Asian face, I can normally tell pretty well whether the person is Japanese, Chinese, Korean, or some other type of Asian, because I've spent a lot of time looking at Asian faces throughout my time learning Japanese. But before I started learning Japanese, I couldn't distinguish between different types of Asian people. They all basically look the same to me. And they all basically look the same to both my parents, I'm pretty sure, because they haven't spent a lot of time comparing Asian faces, looking at Asian faces. And so basically, I used to not have a very high level of pattern recognition ability related to the physical appearance of Asian faces. But through whatever experiences I had throughout my time learning Japanese, I became better able to recognize patterns related to Asian faces, and now I can tell them apart. Also, before I started studying Japanese sounded like complete meaningless mush to me, right? Just a random meaningless noise. But through listening to Japanese and studying Japanese the way that I did, now when I hear Japanese, it feels very similar to when I hear English. It's immediately perceived to just be meaningful. I just understand it. But there's no time lag or anything. I can't really even remember what Japanese sounded like to me before I was able to understand it. So this kind of just goes to show you that the way that your unconscious mind interprets the raw data from your senses to create conscious experience is highly influenced by the kinds of experiences that we have.
And that's why I say a lot of the times when we're DJing, you know, some folks wondering, okay, well, how do I get this, or how do I, you know how to, you know, place it here and how to program? Again, through years of experience, and not only just of exposure to music, but exposure to the different demographics, right? Different types of people, the pairing the music with different times of the night, different venues. So you do that so many times and things just start to click. It's the same thing with, like, you know, anything like playing, you know, football, the international football, where, you know, you start kicking the ball, you start playing with your friends, and all of a sudden you start understanding and anticipating where players are going to be, and it automatically kicks in. But there's another part of this whole noticing theory.
However, we have to be ready. We have to be ready to receive that bit of information. Because if it comes too early, we don't know enough about the language. We haven't experienced enough about the language for that hint to be useful.
Okay? So essentially, when it comes to DJing, unless I show you, right, you may not necessarily understand where I'm coming from, or why I'm doing certain things, or why things are being done the certain way that they're being done. Also, if you're not prepared for that information, if you haven't, you know, been exposed to certain elements within the DJ culture, right? If you don't have enough momentum coming in, it doesn't matter what I teach you, what I show you, you will just not get it, because you have to have certain things in place in order for you to pick up the more advanced, right, elements. We've talked about that before, right? How am I able to DJ, not sit here, focus on my equipment, but mostly focused on the people at the bar, even the back bar people, right? The people in the kitchen, the people on the outside, because again, I've become so advanced at doing the basic stuff that it's freed up my mind for the stuff that is to come, right? And it's very important that we discuss that, because I think a lot of DJs are having this problem, right? And I'm going to show you with this mix, right? All these mixes right here are just me programming my music together. And there's one thing that you have to understand. The more that you spend your time programming, and when you're practicing, figuring out what goes with what, this goes with this, whatever, the more time you do that during practice, the easier it will come when you are live, that the music will just come to you and you won't even know where it's coming from. It'll just happen automatically.
If you're up there just playing and everything's just going, that's what they're seeing. So you have to perform. You have to give them a show, or I feel like I have to give them a show. When I play, I want people to see me connecting the next vibe and going back and forth. And that's what I feel it's missing sometimes in the dance music scene. Like, it's...
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying to you? So, without further ado, let's get into this first mix. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and, for instructional purposes, I have my cue points in. So I'm gonna go ahead and move to the cue points, right? So here we go. So you're seeing. Remember we talked about it before, right? The chasing, having it so that the music that comes afterwards, you can't imagine them two separated, right? I'm chasing it. I'm coming up to it. I'm getting a line. I'm a line here. I'm parked, right? We're aligned. You see what I'm saying to you? All right, so we're gonna go to another one now. We're gonna move over. Right. That was the same song. Let's move it into another song. Remember I told you, right? Minimum 2, you move over to something else. But watch how I move into that other track. All right, I'm aligning. Let people get adjusted to that new sound. Now it's still in, listen, it's still there, listen. You heard it, right? You hear it? It's coming in. It's chasing it. It's chasing it. It wants to park right next to it. It's chasing it. You see what I'm saying to you? It's like you can't imagine the two just separated. All right, move on to the next one. Alright. Now again, in the early phase, I was just starting it off, right? We were like in a pool area, lounge, whatever. Now, I'm just kicking it up, right? Playing for the ladies, right? And then now I'm still gonna keep it vocal, but then I'll move in later on. But listen to the transition now. I'm chasing it, right? You hear it? It's coming in. That's why proper placement and timing is so crucial. Listen. It's locked. It's locked. So this is throughout the mix. I'm going through. I've pumped it up a little bit more. I'm going through different sounds. Like I said, I play open house. I'm not just linear with my sound. I'm not gonna play only tech. I'm not gonna play only new disco. I'm not gonna only play funk. I'm gonna mix it up. That's what an open house DJ, that's what a clubhouse DJ does, right? If you're playing at a club, you wanna mix it up. It's gonna get boring, dude. Listen. You hear it? Coming in. I'm chasing it. You notice I'm not committing, right? Wait until the last minute, then kick everything in. See how I locked in everything, right? During that transition, coming into the intro, right? All right, let's move into another mix. We'll come back to that other one. Again, starting off slow, chilling, right? I want to make sure that everything is connected. I want to chase it so that you listen to this track, man. You're like, yo, what would go with this track? What would go with this track? And am I gonna maintain that texture? Listen. Now, take a listen to this same song, and we're gonna move it to another one. I'm gonna mix it on the breakdown from the intro breakdown for the next song. Signature. Now I'm gonna take this next track and we'll move it over. It's the same track. And this is when I add the acapella and I break down everything, right? Because now I'm moving faster a little bit, so I'm doing a little bit of tricks. Watch. This is one of my favorite mixes right here. One of my favorite transitions right here. I listen to this. I'm not one to like toot my horn, but dude, name me one person on YouTube right now, dude, that can go so many directions when it comes to house music. Watch what I do with this. At the acapella, I threw in. The other song is coming in as well. I looped the other one. The outro track, it's looped. imagine those two, those three without each other, dude. That's what the artistry of DJing is all about. Let's go. You know what I'm saying to you? Come on, man. You can perform all day. You can do tricks all day. But if you can't do this, you're not an artist. We'll go over. Alright. Watch the transition now. I'm taking this and I'm gonna go a little more serious now. Watch. Remember, people are dancing, dude, on the dance floor. We're not jumping up and down, screaming, taking pictures. You ain't got time for that. Loop. Serious business. Johnny Fontana, let's go. I got goosebumps, dude. Goosebumps. Drop. Coming in. Remember, right? Because I'm a little bit more serious. So I don't have to stay tech, but I'm going to stay. Okay? I went from that little more funky, now to a little bit more serious. This is the second track coming up. I'm gonna go more serious, but I'm gonna pick it up now. Watch. Watch how I do it. Watch how I do it. Breakdown mixing. It's coming up. Letting people get used to the groove. And I'm gonna loop this. Watch. It's chasing it. Chasing it. You could not imagine it without it. Johnny Fontana, Booth Riders, make some noise. Let's go. Up, dude. Simple stuff, but it's got to be clean. All right, so watch. Last one on this one. All right, it's the same one. Because it moved up, right? It progressed itself. Now watch. Now you see how I allowed the other track to keep looping. Listen, watch. Now I'm chasing this one now. I'm chasing it. It's like, yo, what would come after that track, man? What would come after that? Oh, what you got here? feeling your own mixes for? Because I don't get this anywhere else. I don't hear any of this stuff. You know what I'm saying to you? I really don't hear any of this stuff.
Do you go out like and
I'm an asshole when I go out. Like in my head.
are you just over analyzing everything?
Yeah, everything. Like, why is this guy?
We just talked about this, right?
Yeah,
So,
like even if I don't want to, I'm paying attention. Like, let's just go. I'm like, I hate what's going on. I don't really love what's going on. So we left there. I was good. We drove to the Bootlegger Bistro on Las Vegas Boulevard. Fuck, man. There was this old man playing piano, and I get goosebumps. This guy was old man playing piano and a little Korean man playing the bass. And I wanted to cry, man. I sat down, I threw him $100. I'm like, you're amazing. Thank you. And I sat there with my wife for 2 hours, just like, doom, 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 doom. Just, that's all it takes, man. I was my girl. I'm like, this is perfect. I needed to see the both sides. This is the dark. This is what you don't want. This is exactly what you want.
you saw like one side that's like excess, extravagance, and then you went and it was just literally, yeah.
And it was everybody that was smiling. There was people laughing and talking. Nobody was on their phones or trying to take a video of it. Nothing. Just
Simpler
boom.
times. It's bare bones. Damn.
Yeah, it was nice.
And it's not that I'm trying to toot my horn. Obviously, I'm in a moment right now, so you know me, right? You guys know me. I'm not like all like, you know, oh, this is me, right? I'm not that kind of a person. But it's like, dude, like, can you enjoy your own art? Like, if you can listen to yourself and be like, yo, I don't hear this anywhere else. Yeah, maybe in like tech or progressive and whatever, but like to be able to go so many different ranges and to be able to provide a party like that and be able to make those songs go together so well and loop and add an acapella and it not be just a drop every 2 seconds, every 2 songs, you know, one track is moving and then the next one every 2 seconds and the next one and people like don't even know what the heck is going on. No, dude. Here we go. You remember that one, right? From before? Again, this is a totally different sound than what you heard before, right? Watch how I flip this. Watch how I park it and chase it. I'm telling you right now, there's nobody on YouTube that does what I do. Nobody. If there is, I want you to email me and show me the range. Not only the range, but everything else, dude. Nobody's doing it. There can always be a number 1, a number 2, a number 3, a number 4. Check it out. I'm chasing it. You're coming after me. I'm coming after you, dude. Let's go. I'm coming after you. You see what I'm saying to you? Alright, watch how I flip this now.
Okay, now here's what I want you.
That's what I normally do, right? I do a cappella, breakdown, and then the intro from the other one.
It was all about the music, not about.
That's my signature. You know I do that.
Back when we would dance to the music and listen to what the DJ had to say, musically speaking, if you know what I mean. Are you there yet?
Still looping.
Okay, it's all good then. Now since we got you right where we want you to be, once upon a time called right now, just let it all go and give up the funk.
That's chasing.
When you can't find words to say, get yourself out of the way, get it working. It's your time, it has come, and you're not the only one. It's up to you, and no one else, and no one else. You got to be where that be.
Now I'm gonna bring it down now. Watch how I bring it down. Because I've been up for so long. Watch how I bring it down.
This is your time now.
I'm chasing it. You hear it, right? chasing it, chasing it. I'm bringing it down. Watch.
Sun is shining, the weather is sweet, yeah. Make you wanna move your dancing feet now.
Telling you, dude, like
when the morning gather the rainbow.
Where have you experienced this at a nightclub?
Want you to know I'm a rainbow too. But to the rescue, here I am. One sun is shining, the weather is sweet, yeah.
I'm gonna move it up a little bit.
Make you wanna move, yeah. Gather. To the rescue. Want you to understand. You're gonna leave.
Right? It's the intro from the other song. You could not imagine the two without each other. I'm telling you, dude, like when I hear this, it's like I'm like, man, like where can I get this? Watch, and now watch how I bring it down. Watch how I bring it down. You hear it? It's coming in. Now this is where I'm gonna go to the after hours now. Chasing it, just chasing it, just chasing it, just chasing it, chasing it. It's fun. Right? You're letting them get used to it. Remember we talked about that, right? That's how you chase tracks, man. Again, unless you have somebody who's showing you and teaching you and saying that, yo, you are trash and this is what you're supposed to be doing. If you want to be an artist, if you want to be a performer, don't come to me. I'm not James Hype. More power to him. He does his thing. He does his thing great. I am not that. I am an artist. I'm a club DJ. I am open house. I am an official booth rider. And this is what I do. My claim to whatever is to be able to align, to chase, and to make good mixes, make good parties that are relevant and that are sustainable, and that when you leave, you're like, yo, dude, that was a good party because I went from here to there. I didn't stay on the same train.
Look at my breath, weed in my chest. Everybody know me the text. Look at my breath, weed in my chest. Everybody know me the text. Look at my breath, weed in my chest. Everybody know me the text. Look at my breath, weed in my chest. Everybody know me the text. Look at my breath.
You started doing a smaller party at Marquee in the library recently.
Wednesdays, right?
Yeah.
And that's every week?
It's every week.
And what do you get to play over there that you don't normally play? Like you get to go deeper in house?
Deeper, and even like, you know, some techie stuff, some darker stuff, some techno, whatever the vibe, you know, dictates. It doesn't always have to be deep, doesn't always have to be groovy, but there's definitely it's not the mainstream hits. It's not going to be that. I want to play the whole story. I want to tell my story from open to close. The first song is the most important as much as the last song to me.
So you do the whole night?
I do the whole night.
I love that.
So again, yes, I got carried away. I was feeling myself, but yo, I'm telling you, like, and I'm not joking when I tell you that, yes, I hear this music. It's not the fact of playing the music. It's how you put them together. It's how you chase it. It's just like breakdancing, how I showed you, you know, before, right? When it comes to flow, you can have different, you know, moves, but if you can't string them along together and make it look really good, then what are you doing? You see what I'm saying to you? At the end of the day, it's like, that's the art of it, so that everything flows and it's crisp and it's just beautiful. That's the art of it. Just putting stuff together and, like, you know, like doing up and down and all that stuff. That's cool, but that's not what club DJing is all about, man. Not when it comes to electronic music. When it comes to hip hop, it's something different, right? But when it comes to mixing, because you can do freaking sync all day, and then there's nothing wrong with sync, but what I'm saying though, but if you sync in all day because you have 4 or 5 decks working at the same time, and you want to create this, or you want to do just your synthesizer and then create music production on the fly, that's not DJ, that's performance. Like, you need to call it what it is. It's a performance. That's not DJing. If your mix or your DJ set consists of 80 to 90% of your music, that's a artist album. That's not a DJ mix. If your top 10, right, list is 80% of your music, it's a freaking demo, right? It's a mixtape of your own music. It's not a DJ mix. Like, let's stop freaking pretending like and giving these people a pass, man. Like, it's ridiculous. But anyway, I'm done. Coming down again. I think that was really, it was necessary, because again, I listened to a whole lot of mixes, dude, and I just don't feel it. Listen, I listen to mixes from big DJs, from well-renowned DJs, and they're going from like, yo, to what the heck? Like what happened? But people are used to that. So they don't know any better. And that's why I said, if you're not ready for this to you, it's like, I don't get it, because all I've been hearing is a chop, up and down. Go, one song here, and then you play this, and you play. There is no flow. So when you don't hear that, you don't know what you don't know. So what I'm telling you is like, yo, dude, you're making too much sense, and you're working too hard, and I don't want to work that hard. I think it's easier if I just put 2 songs together that sound similar, and that can just get the job done. Fine. I'm not saying that your way is the wrong way. All I'm saying, dude, is that there is another way, right? And, if you want to follow it, you can. If you don't want to, it's on you. But on that note, I hope you learned something from this, dude. Like, I spent a whole lot of time doing this stuff for you guys because I want to. And as far as like coming up every week with stuff, dude, you know, at the end of the day, if I do this stuff every week, you're gonna get tired of me, right? I remember back in the day when I was growing up in the 80s, man, and in the 90s, they used to have this thing called Saturday night's main event, right? Because back then you didn't have in New York, well, everywhere in the States, you didn't have cable guides, right? Virtual. You had everything as a TV guide, right? So you never knew when stuff was coming out unless you had a subscription to the TV guide. And if you didn't have a subscription to the TV guide, you didn't know what was going to be showing. So sometimes on a Saturday night, all of a sudden I would see, Hulk Hogan, because he's not supposed to be, you only see Hulk Hogan during like the main WWF Survivor Series or the WrestleMania, but you never saw like Hulk Hogan like randomly, wrestling because he was a superstar. And it's Saturday night main event, like you're just switching through channels and oh wow, main event, and everyone gets happy, and then you may catch it at the end, you may catch it in the beginning, you never know. But like you'd hear it and you call your people, hey, the main event's on. But it was such a gratifying feeling because it was a surprise, because you never knew when it was coming, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, it's there. But if it was there every week, I would get tired of it. So it was such a treat to just have it where it was like it popped up. It was like, and no one knew when it was coming, and it just came up. That was the blessing in disguise, for me. So, and I hope you appreciate, what I do for you guys. Again, it's not that I need the adoration. I'm not looking for that, but I just hope that you appreciate that style of it, and that, you don't want things like every freaking week because you get tired of it, right? And not only that, for me, these things don't come up just like that, right? I have to think about them, and I put a lot of effort into it, and also working with other DJs. I put a lot of effort into, I did a recording for another DJ, an hour and 15 minutes, for that person. So I do these things, you see what I'm saying to you? And it's not because I'm like, yo, look at me, I want to be you got to recognize what I do for you. No, I do it because this is my passion. I eat, sleep, and breathe this kind of stuff when I'm not working. You see what I'm saying to you? So anyway, I've been talking a lot. Hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys. If you're here to the last minute, man, I really appreciate you, right? Like, no, trust me, I may not, say a lot. I may not come on here a lot, but I really appreciate you guys. You see what I'm saying to you? And again, it's not about subscribers. I'm not looking for like big numbers because I wouldn't be able to handle it. I don't handle celebrity well. I don't like being, adored and all that stuff. I don't handle that stuff well. That's why I'm not big on social media, because I'm not like, oh, look at what I'm doing. Look at me. I'm not into that stuff. I'm a very introverted type of person. I'm a Scorpio, right? So I'm very quiet, intense, back, of the room. I like to look and observe, right? Instead of being the one who's always in charge, So anyway, Johnny Fontana, Half Amazing TV, we out.